Hello, welcome to this video. I am recording a playback from tool-assisted, well, kind of speed run, you could say. It's a pacifist run, so I have managed to get 0 points at the end. Well, I finish the game and then I get 50,000 bonus. But other than that, it's a 0-point run, which was pretty hard to get. Here you see one of the hardest enemies in the game, the green craft, because they are almost as fast as I am, and so they're kind of hard to avoid even with the tool assist. So tool assist, what that means is that I'm using the emulator and I am cheating pretty much. I set it to pause, I rewind it when I die, I go 1 frame at a time to make sure I do the exact moves that I need to do to make sure I don't die. And well, as you can see, that works. But these green craft, well, as I said, they're almost as fast as I am, so I need to lure them either to the top or the bottom and then go up while they also go up. Here I go through the mountain, which I will explain later. But so the craft, yeah, I'm avoiding them, and that's pretty hard because I'm really slow. And the usual way you play the game, obviously you kill all the enemies, and then they are not really hard at all. First of all, because they just fly right in front of you, so you can just shoot them. But also because you would pick up some of these power-ups, and then, well, they're not so fast, or well, I am much faster, and so they're not as fast as me anymore, almost. So that's why they are now harder, because there are no power-ups, because for power-ups you need to kill enemies, and I did not want to do that, because this is a pacifist run. So this is not a place where in a normal game you just go and hang in the top left, so you can use missiles and lasers to just shoot everything easily. You don't really need to do anything, just press the fire button repeatedly. Now, it's not really hard here either, especially because of the tool assist. But yeah, here there is some movement going on, because there is no real safe place here on the screen, I think anyway. But well, this was safe enough that I could just move around a little. A cool thing about the game here is that these end bosses, at the end of each level, you don't actually need to kill them. So if you just hold out long enough, now the ball in the center has turned blue, which means it's vulnerable. So now you can shoot the shield and then the ball itself. But you don't actually need to do that. If you just wait, then at some point it turns red again, and a little while later the ship just explodes. This is the main reason that it wouldn't be a speed run, because obviously when you kill this enemy, then you are done a lot faster. But this way I can finish the level with 0 points, and that was the goal for this run. So, level 2, same thing pretty much, just avoiding all the enemies. Obviously there's more and more enemies coming, and they are shooting more bullets and that sort of thing, so it gets harder as the game progresses, just like when you play it normally. But yeah, at the end it actually becomes, it seems to become impossible. You don't really see that in this run, but I'll point it out when it happens. That's an interesting point, I think, because I have just been working on the analysis of the game from the ROM file. I've been making a map and checking out all the stuff with the secret levels. And I actually found something there which I kind of already knew, but I'm using that at the end in level 8. So stay tuned for that. So here you see that with the walls everywhere, the green craft are even harder to avoid. And they're also shooting bullets, which makes them harder. But well, I managed to do it, so that was nice. So here, a little while from now, there will be the first entrance to a secret level. I originally thought about going into the secret levels, so that you could see every level, but then I realized that that was actually not possible. because I do a pacifist run, which means I have not taken any power-ups at all. And without power-ups, I mean, these things I can shoot because they don't give me any points. But obviously I can only shoot straight because I don't have a double, I don't have options, I don't have missiles. So if I go into a secret level, I would just die because there's no way to get through without shooting up or down. So yeah, I decided I had to not take any secret levels, but instead just go through all the regular levels and therefore also all the bosses here. And that's fun, so that's good. This is probably more interesting than going through the secret level anyway. But I think I will also do a run where I will do just the secret levels and then get every bonus item from there, because that is quite a challenge as well. Actually, getting every bonus item I've already checked, it's impossible. Getting the maximum amount of bonus items, that would be possible. And that's still a real challenge. So I would use tool assist for that as well, to make sure that it actually works, because especially there, if you do something wrong, you really need to rewind, because otherwise you will need to restart the level from the beginning every time, and that is just, well, I mean, it's a challenge as well, but in a different way. It's more like the regular speedrunning challenge. Regular speedrunners also, obviously, when they make a mistake, they just need to restart. Well, when it's a big mistake anyway, otherwise they just have to accept that the time isn't as high as they had hoped. But it might still be really good, or even a world record. I mean, real speedruns are never really perfect. But tool assisted are supposed to be anyway. That's the point of the tool assist, that you get them to be actually perfect. So, level 3. This is a really interesting one, but I will not spoil the secret. For that you will need to watch the video that I will probably publish soon about the analysis. But you may want to take a look at the level again if you are familiar with it. I'm guessing most of you are familiar with the game if you're looking at this. But if you're not, then well, you might still just check and see what could be special about this level compared to the other two that you just saw, and actually compared to pretty much every other level in the game. This is a very special level, but I will not tell why for now. I will tell you in the next video. So here obviously I'm just avoiding all of the projectiles, which is sometimes a bit harder. So here what is now coming in at the top, no, it's not here. What is now coming in at the top is the entrance to the secret level here. And so I'm just teasing by almost going in there, but not quite. Because again, if I would go in there, I would actually just die. Which isn't the end of the world, I have 2 lives, but it's nice to not do that. And yeah, just move through the entire thing without dying and without scoring any points. Actually, dying usually scores points as well, because in most cases you would die by flying into an enemy, which then dies as well. But of course, if you fly into a wall, then you can just die without scoring points. This is actually a pretty easy end boss kind of thing. Just avoid everything. Normally I would just go crazy shooting everything, which works. It's also not too hard. But there's really no need. Except of course if you want points, but in this case I really don't want points. Because that's the entire point of this run. So we have another end boss, which I will just sit out, this time by sitting straight in front of his nose, because I had to do something. The interesting thing here is that the boss obviously is made of characters, while the ship is a sprite. So that's why the boss always moves in multiples of 8 pixels. But what I also saw, and you will see it, I'll remind you again at the next end boss, is that it actually, when it moves, it erases the stars. Because obviously there's no star, which is also a character, at the place where the boss is. But the stars are apparently not remembered, so when the boss moves away from its place, it just fills it up with emptiness. And if there used to be a star there, then that star is lost. So the band where the boss is moving over is actually wiped with all the stars are gone at the end. So I hadn't actually noticed that before, but that's just a way how they implemented it, which makes sense because remembering where the stars are is probably pretty hard. So here you have another mountain with a tunnel through it. I was thinking of going through the tunnels, but well, it was a bit too hard here, and I'm not going to take the secret anyway. So yeah, I didn't end up doing that here. And actually the next one I'm also not going through. I shouldn't go through all of them anyway, because when you go through all the tunnels, then you actually enter the secret level. And as I said, I would die, and I don't want that. So, well, I just skipped these two. Here I had to really make sure I was on the right side of the mountain immediately, pretty much, because it doesn't stop spewing this stuff, and you just can't pass it if you don't do it while it is still doing only few of the projectiles. So originally I was just at the left side, and I was like, okay, now I need to pass, and it's just impossible. So instead I rewound the recording, and I just made sure I passed it immediately, because then it was still possible. So here's another end boss kind of thing, where I don't really need to do much, just move around a little to avoid some things. But yeah, it's really not that hard, especially with the tool assist. Because, well, obviously, if I do something wrong, then I can just redo it. I don't remember if I even needed to do that, because it's really not that hard. And here's another end boss. Now you can see the stars being erased. So now obviously it's removing the stars while it's going there. But then you can see when it goes up, the stars don't actually return. And so it's just sitting there in a band of black. So I thought that was interesting. It's when you see it, it's really obvious, like all the stars are gone. But I hadn't actually seen it before. It's interesting that one star is actually, well, apparently it is just to the left of it, because it wasn't erased, the one at the bottom. And the next level. So this is level 5 with the skeleton stuff. This is really, it has a, it's actually the way the game was made with all the different characters. It makes it nice and varied. A lot of variation. I like that. It's a nice game anyway. But that is one of the reasons that I like it. It's not all. I mean, it's kind of the same all the time, because obviously the mechanics are the same. You're just flying through a place and you shoot everything, or in this case, you avoid everything. But yeah, with all the different music and different characters in there, it still feels like there's a lot of variation, which is nice. So this, well, it's just a matter of avoiding all the stuff, which is again not too hard with the tool assist. So here's some bones that cannot be killed. You actually need to avoid them. I mean, I do that anyway because I avoid everything. But in the regular game you also, I mean, you can shoot it, but it just won't be destroyed. So here actually you shouldn't go here because the way is blocked. Well, this way you can shoot, but then this one you cannot shoot. So going there usually kills you. But I thought I'd do it anyway because it's fun. And if you're all the way on the right side, then it's no problem. Here I thought about going under through, but it was completely blocked by other projectiles, so I just took the other way. This is actually pretty hard to do manually. I have been using the single frame stuff a lot here to avoid everything. Because somehow the way they spin is just, it's hard to predict where they're going. And if you just try to avoid them, it easily gets you killed. Obviously there's usually not as many as there are here because you would shoot them. But still, yeah, that's a pretty hard part. Well, this is really easy. It's actually harder with the pacifist system because they come towards me and shooting them is pretty easy. Avoiding them is slightly harder. So, yet another boss. Nothing new to see here. That's actually interesting about Nemesis 2. They have pretty much the same thing, but they have changed these end bosses. They're very similar, but then the first one is like this, and the second one this shoots different rockets, and then it's mostly different in how it shoots. This one is just the same every time. Only when after you finished it and you do it again, then the thing will also shoot bullets, which will make it quite a bit harder. But other than that, there's no variation at all in the end bosses. Which, I mean, it's okay. It's the first game they made of this type. And I already think it's pretty impressive how much variation they managed to put in it. So these are different monsters again. They're only in this level. So that's also kind of interesting that they make this this enemy only for the intro part where we are now of this level. This is level 6. Level 6 is also very special because it's actually completely empty. There's only enemies in it, but no floors or anything. So that's kind of weird. And it also doesn't have an end monster. So for making the map, I actually just skipped this one because I don't have the enemies in it. The main goal of making the map was to make a map of all the bonus stuff in the secret levels. So the yellow and the green power-up kind of things, like the usual red and blue ones. In the bonus levels there's yellow and green ones for points and extra lives. So that's the goal of the analysis of the map, is to map out where those are, because they were mostly hidden. And so if you want to know what the optimal way is to fly through the levels, you need a map with knowing where all the treasure is, pretty much. So I was making this treasure map, and I didn't put the enemies in. But that means in this level, the entire level is just empty, so there's nothing in it. Yeah, I just left it out. These two armed enemies are actually kind of hard because they move up and down, and it's well, as you can see, I can move underneath them, but only at the right time, because they do just block the screen. And there's the end boss again. They have a lot of these in their storage apparently. They can just throw them in. Yeah. And it's red again, of course, and then it is dead again. So, level 7, almost there. Total of 8 levels to go. So this is the organic level, I would say. Which is kind of like you're inside some monster. I'm not actually sure about the story here. Maybe you are inside a monster. But yeah, I don't know. The thing with these old games is that the story is usually, there isn't much of a story, and when there is, it's mostly told in the manual and not in the game itself. Probably because there's no space for it in the. I mean, it's hard enough to fit the game itself in the available space. So this is also pretty hard to make sure I don't hit any flowers. But as you can see, I managed. But yeah, to fit the game in the space is usually pretty hard. So then to also put a story about the backstory of the game in it, that's of course taking space, and the space just isn't there maybe. Although in some cases, I mean, I did the Maze of Galious, I also made this map, and they do actually have an introduction with a backstory. So there it worked, and they're also pretty short on space there, so I would think that it should have been possible here, but well, they didn't do it, so that's all I know. And I think they would probably not have the story about where we are in here, in the, also in the manual, because I mean, you shouldn't really know when you start the game that you're going to end up here. So a game like Salamander, they have the story in the game. They actually, there's a lot of, well, it's pretty short, but still, there are a lot of times when there's a line of text saying this is what's happening now. So that's, yeah. This game could have used that as well, but being the first game of this type that they made, I totally understand that they wouldn't do this, because it was hard enough making the game. So here we have level 8, last level. Here especially these green enemies are really hard, and actually in a moment there is this problem that I was referring to at the beginning that would usually have made it impossible. I mean, if you look at the map, it's impossible to do a pacifist run because of that one place in this level just before the end. And what the problem is that it's a narrow corridor which just fits, I think it's just 4 characters. Yeah, it's just 4 characters high. And there's cannons on the bottom and also on the top. In other words, there's 4 characters of cannons. The entire corridor is completely blocked. And so the only way to get through is to destroy those cannons. And destroying the cannons obviously breaks the pacifist run. And here it is. As you see, there's only 1 cannon. Now, how did that happen? Well, you may want to rewind it. What I did is I made sure that there's a lot of enemies on screen when those cannons are supposed to enter the screen. And then the table of enemies is just full. So it wants to add more cannons, but it's like, well, there's just no room to put them, to say that there is another enemy. And then it just doesn't put it there. It just says, well, okay, then this enemy, I'll skip it. So yeah, that's how that worked. Now this one is similar to the other end bosses. You just don't do anything and then you win. So that concludes this video. So I hope you liked it. And as you can see, score is nicely 0. So that's really good. And well, I think the other video, the analysis, might be interesting. So I look forward to seeing that there. But of course first we need to see the base explode. Because you do need to get some reward for actually finishing the game. And not just the points, but also a nice animation. They do a lot more these days, but there's 50,000 points, the only points I got in the entire run. See you later!